Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to talk about this invisible force, something that shapes our ambitions, our envy, pretty much everything. It's called social comparison theory. And believe it or not, it all kicks off with a really, really dark story.
Just imagine hearing that. What on earth would make someone say something so crazy? Well, the answer tells us pretty much everything we need to know about, well, us, about human nature. So yeah, this is an old parable, and it is absolutely brutal. I mean, think about it. The fisherman was so obsessed with how he stocked up against his neighbor that he'd rather lose his own eye than let the other guy get ahead. It sounds insane, right? But as extreme as it is, it points to something really deep inside all of us. And that drive, that's what we're digging into today. This isn't just some weird personality quirk. No, it's a core piece of our psychological wiring. And there's a name for it: social comparison theory. It's basically the science of how we can't help but constantly measure ourselves against everyone else. So what exactly is this theory? Well, it goes way back to 1954 with a guy named Leon Festinger. And his idea was actually pretty simple. Think about it. How do you know if you're a good artist, or funny, or even a good driver? There's no, universal ruler for that stuff. So what do? We look around. We look at other people. We compare. It's our brain's shortcut to create a benchmark, just to figure out where we fit in. Okay, so it turns out this whole comparison thing isn't random at all. Festinger and a bunch of researchers after him figured out that we usually look in one of two directions. We either look up at people who seem to have it better than us, or we look down at those who are worse off. And whichever way we glance, it has a massive impact on how we feel.
So looking up, that's called upward comparison. And it can be amazing, right? It can inspire you, show you what's actually possible, but it can also be a total gut punch, making you feel insecure or just plain envious. And looking down, that's downward comparison. This one can be a nice little ego boost. It makes us feel grateful, maybe a little better about our own problems. The downside, it can also make us lazy, a bit complacent. And check this out. This quote from a study on students learning a new language just nails the good side of looking up. This person saw someone else succeeding and didn't feel crushed. Not at all. Instead, it was like a light bulb went off. It showed them what was possible if they really pushed themselves. It became pure motivation. And then you have the other side of the coin. From that same study, this student realized other people were struggling even more than they were. And boom, instant relief. It totally reframed their own problems, gave them a little confidence boost. And it's not about feeling smug, It's more about that feeling of, okay, I'm not alone in this. Okay, so let's take all this theory and apply it to a place where this stuff is happening 24/7, the workplace. Seriously, if social comparison is a game, then the office is a high-stakes, championship-level arena. I mean, just think about it. Performance reviews, sales leaderboards, who gets promoted, who has what job title. It's all just one big comparison engine. The workplace gives us tons of data about how we're doing and then gives us a million reasons to care about that data. It's like it's been scientifically engineered to set off our comparison alarms. So when you look at the research, all these workplace comparisons really boil down to three main buckets. You've got the really objective stuff, like money. You've got your performance, your actual skills. And then you've got the much fuzzier stuff, like your social status in the office. Let's break them down.
First up, the most obvious one of all, compensation. We're talking salary, bonuses, the whole shebang. It's all hard numbers, right? That makes it a super easy and sometimes super painful way to see how you measure up.
Okay, domain number 2 is our capabilities. Our skills, our performance. And the effect here can be absolutely massive. Get this. One study looked at emergency room doctors. When they started showing them how their performance compared to their peers, productivity for the whole department shot up by almost 11%. Just making the comparison visible was enough to get everyone to level up their game. Incredible, right?
And that brings us to the third domain. This one's the fuzziest, but honestly, it might be the most powerful: social dynamics. We're talking about things like who gets invited to that key meeting, who's always laughing with the boss. It's all about reputation, status, relationships. And these comparisons, these are the ones that can really stir up the most intense emotions. Everything from gut-wrenching envy to a real, solid feeling of confidence.
But wait, it gets even more complicated, because it turns out this comparison game isn't just about where you are right now. Modern research has uncovered a fascinating twist to this whole theory, and it's all about looking into the future.
So what if our brains aren't just taking a static snapshot of the present? What if they're constantly running these complex simulations of what's to come? What if we're not just comparing where we are, but where we're going?
This is the big idea behind something called temporal social comparison. It's like a software update to Festinger's original theory. It suggests that we're always calculating not just a person's current status, but their trajectory, their velocity, their acceleration. How fast are they learning? How quickly are they climbing the ladder? We're basically running a forecast in our heads to figure out who might become a threat down the road.
And what's really wild is that how we react depends entirely on timing. If we predict a threat is still pretty far off in the future, what researchers call a distal threat, we usually see it as a healthy challenge. It actually motivates us to get better. But if that threat feels like it's right around the corner, a proximal threat, that's when our panic buttons get pushed. We might even be tempted to, well, undermine them to protect our own spot.
And suddenly, so much about office politics just clicks into place, right? That senior person who's been in the same role for a decade? Probably not a threat. But that new junior hire who's a super fast learner and getting noticed by everyone, they can feel way more threatening, even though their job title is way below yours. It's not about where they are, it's about where they're going. Their velocity is what sets off the alarm.
So, just to recap, we've got this incredibly powerful, future-predicting comparison engine running in our heads all the time. And in the 21st century, we've basically hooked that engine up to an infinite supply of high-octane fuel. And that's why this theory has never, ever been more important than it is right now.
Just take a look at this. This chart shows academic papers published on social comparison theory. For decades, it was pretty steady, kind of a niche topic. But then, look what happens. The numbers just explode, especially after 2020. So you have to ask, why is this 7-year-old theory suddenly the hottest thing in psychology?
Well, the answer is probably in your hand or your pocket right now. Social media. These platforms are, for all intents and purposes, perfect social comparison machines. Every single scroll is an act of comparison. You're measuring yourself against someone's curated vacation, their new job announcement, their perfect-looking family. We're flooded with more information about more people than at any other time in human history, creating a nonstop 24/7 cycle of upward and downward comparison.
So here's the bottom line. We're all hardwired to do this, to compare. We do it to figure ourselves out, to get motivated, to protect our turf. We're not just looking at today, we're constantly calculating tomorrow. And now, thanks to our screens, we're doing it all the time. The comparison game, it's not going anywhere. You can't opt out. The only real choice you have is how you decide to play. So, now that you know the rules, how are you going to play?